What is good? We're back. We got the new 1-2 punch. We got Chev. How's it going, man?
Man, I tell you what, like I always say, any day on this side of the dirt is a good one. If I were any better, I'd be twins, brother.
That's right, man. Today we're going to go over an NFL mock draft, but mostly looking at the landing spots of these skill position players. We have Jordan Reed's most recent mock from ESPN. We're going to kind of look at all the landing spot for the skill position players and talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly with that, and then talk about kind of dream landing spots, if we like it, if we don't, how it would affect their value here that he has on this sheet. And then we would then say, hey, all right, spoiler alert, Jeanty goes to Vegas. Is that your dream landing spot? No, let's talk about where the dream landing spot. So we got a bunch of stuff and avenues to go down with how these players land, fit, all that jazz. Going to be a fun episode. So to start it off, he has a trade with Tennessee. New York comes up to get the number 1 spot. They take Cam Ward. What are your thoughts there? I know, and obviously a Titans guy here.
Yeah, I mean, good for. All right, so first and foremost, it's absolutely outstanding for the Giants because you now have your franchise quarterback paired with your stalwart OBJ reskin in Malik Neighbors, and that for me would promote Malik Neighbors into just that upper crust tier with Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson from a dynasty perspective. So that's a slam dunk for the Giants, leaving my team out in the cold with no quarterback, or we're forced to pay Sam Darnold $125 million, or anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. Yeah, Cam Ward on the Giants. It's fantastic. Love it. It's what I want to see from a fantasy perspective. As a real fan, it sucks. And yeah, I hate it a whole bunch.
Yeah, I'm on record as saying I want to see Ward to Cleveland. If he goes to the Giants, I'm not upset about it. There's some rumblings about A-Rod there. I would wonder if they spend the top pick on a quarterback, whether it's Shedeur or Cam Ward, if maybe Rodgers comes in there for a year. Probably not likely, but I know the last time that we kind of heard from Rodgers, he was saying how he wouldn't mind mentoring another quarterback on his moonlighting days.
Hey, to be real, so he does have a pretty good track record with mentoring quarterbacks. I mean, Jordan Love talks about what a great influence he was. So getting someone like a Shedeur Sanders or something like that into the building, that would be good. Yeah, that would be really good. I mean, I think Cam Ward is ready to play day one, and him being selected as the number 1 pick, that pretty much solidifies it. But if they go a different route and they use Aaron Rodgers as a bridge, one, that's a fine bridge, still elevates Malik Neighbors into that upper crust, like top 2 or 3 dynasty wide receiver. And you have the guy in the background waiting that's going to learn all the tricks of the trade from Aaron Rodgers. So I don't hate that. I don't know. I just don't want to see Aaron Rodgers in New York. Like, I'm tired of hearing about every single thing and them having like 8 primetime games. And that's the reason I don't want to see it. It's nothing to do with the fantasy aspect of it. It's just I'm fatigued by New York Jets or New York media Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, no, I feel you. It would be quite interesting if he stays in that same building, though.
Yeah.
But all right, so Ward goes to the Giants. Any push or pull, any which way for Ward's fantasy value in that landing spot?
No, I absolutely love it because he has Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors just had the most targets in the history of the NFL for a rookie. Like for a rookie, he owns the rookie record for receptions for a receiver. Important distinction because Brock Bowers owns the rookie record. He owns the rookie record for receivers for receptions in a season. And you can see what type of talent he is. I mean, it's obvious. It jumps off the screen. And like it feels like he just put up 1,207 and that's like a floor outcome. I mean, am I wrong?
No, not really. I would just say he did miss some time. So that helps to be kind of the floor outcome. I would say that there'll probably be times further in his career when there's more target distribution that maybe the target share isn't so great in that beginning stretch of run for Malik Neighbors, but obviously a stud. And that's not a slight on Malik Neighbors. It's just trying to, kind of balance out what much like we talk about Brian Thomas on the show is like down the stretch, he was getting a ridiculous target share. Now Evan Ingram and Kirk have since left, which were guys that you were a little, I wasn't downgrading BTJ by any means because of those guys. He's obviously awesome, but when you put the whole ecosystem back in play, essentially you're going to have games where you don't see 10 targets and you weren't not seeing that. So,
right. Basically, I think what you're saying is like, as long as like, once they're no longer a dog shit team at like organization as a whole, the fantasy outcome, like the ceiling, the safe floor and the ceiling might lower a little bit, but he might become more efficient in a better offense too.
Right.
So,
and I think those things can offset one another.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. We're lockstep on that.
Yeah. So yeah, I like Ward here. No real change for me. I'm down with Ward a lot more than other people. I'm higher on Ward and Shedeur than everybody else. So they would really have to go into bad spots for me to be down on them. Like I'm fine anywhere from 2 to 5 or 6 on Ward, and 6 to 9, 10 on Shedeur, anywhere in those ranges for both those guys. And neither one of these landing spots would change anything for me particularly. And then Cleveland takes Shedeur just to put that cat out of the bag there. I like the Giants fit better for Shedeur and the Cleveland fit better for Ward, but it doesn't really change much for me as far as my fantasy outlook on it.
No, I mean, so they're both chock full of fantasy options and weapons. I mean, we're going to talk about a guy that they take they're going to take in the end of the draft. We're going to talk about a guy they take in the second round as a potential replacement at running back that basically gives them a complete ecosystem. You've got David Njoku, you've got Cedric Tillman, you've got Jerry Jeudy who's locked up. I think that's a fantasy ecosystem that's set up for success. All they have to do is get their offensive line healthy. I mean, but the thing that we've seen is Shedeur is excellent. He's been excellent. He's been under duress,
sure,
for 2 years straight. Just living wild. Now, some of that is his fault. He has to get better with his pocket presence. That is 100% something. As Shedeur Sanders, I will admit that we have a flaw there. However, you can't deny the fact that if you give him the weapons and you give him time to throw, he was one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football. Full stop, no equivocation. So, yeah, I love that landing spot for him. It's the Browns, so you think that they're going to find a way to screw it up. But I mean, he just might be built to build things.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think just for their structure of how their cap situation is right now, I think a rookie quarterback really helps them out and figures, I don't see why they wouldn't go that direction right here unless they're kicking the can down the road completely.
It makes zero sense. It makes zero sense for them to do anything else, in my opinion. I mean, they're not going to trade Myles Garrett. He couldn't even get a meeting with the owner. So, yeah, why would you not just, hey, let's just survive the last couple years of this deal we gave Deshaun Watson and hit the reset button on when we got to pay another quarterback?
Yeah, no, and this isn't the show for me to sell you on these quarterbacks. And furthermore, I have a whole thing that I'd like to do on Shedeur Sanders just from the media from last week. Trevor Sikkema on DP show, like I want to diagnose that whole conversation. It was crazy. If you said at 1-2 you could draft, because the way these guys are talking about him, like he doesn't have elite traits and doesn't have this, he doesn't have that, and it's like, all right. Let's just say that the outcome for Shedeur Sanders is a lot more athletic, but I don't want to put him as an athlete but I do think Shedeur's plenty athletic. He's just not like crazy fast, but very elusive and kind of knows what he's doing. If you told the Cleveland Browns right now that at number 2 they could draft a 21-year-old Kirk Cousins, they'd do it in a second, right? And that's no disrespect to Shedeur or Kirk. I'm just saying, like, if you want to look at the tools of a quarterback and just say, hey, this is a pretty decent quarterback, and if you could just say, hey, we're not missing here at the 1-2 spot or whatever it ends up being for him, it's crazy to me that everyone wants to just make this into some wild thing. So I just feel like the way everybody was talking about him, I'm like, all right, so let's just call him Kirk Cousins then. That's a little more athletic. You wouldn't every team in this draft and picking top 5 or anybody that needs a quarterback picking top 7 wouldn't take somebody with the tools of Kirk Cousins. Come on now, give me a break.
I mean, if you want to take a step further, like compare him to Brock Purdy coming out.
Yeah.
Just like we don't have to spend too much time as far as that goes. Like I have my thoughts as to why. I mean, we all know why the media is so pilled up to say all these negative things about the son of Deion Sanders. So
Sure.
we don't have to spend too much time there. But I do think that if given the opportunity, he's going to deliver as an NFL quarterback. It's going to be more about the ecosystem. You do have to put things around him. He's not a Cam Newton where he can just put the team on his back. But I don't understand why. I don't understand why you in these instances specifically why you wouldn't want to get a quarterback like that in your building.
Yeah. Yeah. And just before we move off of this, I am in no way, shape, or form making the player comparison of Kirk Cousins and Shedeur Sanders stylistically, play style, anything. I'm just saying what the public views as just a pretty decent quarterback. And some people are saying Kirk Cousins is trash. He's not trash. He's an above average NFL quarterback. And I think with decent tools, but nothing crazy, right? So that's what I'm saying. If that's what you want to say Shedeur is, and then we could just say, all right, well, then let's just say he's around the Kirk Cousins range of outcomes, everyone would be down with that. And so I don't really understand what the argument is when you don't have these elite traits. It's like, okay.
What is that even like? Yeah. What are the elite traits? Like what? Yeah. He's not Josh Allen. Cool. Right. There's 31 other jobs and no one else is Josh Allen either. So shut up.
All right, we'll keep it moving because I don't want to get.
No, for sure. I didn't mean to do it either, but no. I'm here for some Shedeur Sanders love.
Sure. All right. 4 is Travis Hunter. We're going to kind of leave him out of this discussion for now, just because there's so much up in the air. It goes to New England in this scenario. I think it's going to be corner and then some wide receiver for me personally. If he goes to New England, maybe it's wide receiver and a little, but it seems odd to play wide receiver and a little bit of corner. Like that's just a weird.
That's the problem, right? That is the problem. Is you cannot play corner. You can't moonlight as a corner,
right?
Like you're basically, if you moonlight as a corner, you're giving your coverages away almost instantaneously because that guy's not going to know how to do anything other than just play man. Mm-hmm. Like you can't have. It's anyway, we don't have to get into real football stuff. I would love that fit because that's honestly a place where he could go and say, okay, cool. We don't really have a number one wide receiver per se yet. And we've got a number one corner, so we don't need you to be locking down all like Christian Gonzalez is there. So we don't need you to be locked down day one, stalwart PS2 caliber corner. So we can have you play 20 or 30 snaps on offense. And I think that that's probably the best path for success. I mean, Deion was the most successful to ever do it. And his best season looked like 425 yards on 30 receptions. So I don't think that I'm hoping against hope that he does play a lot more receiver, but if you're going to play corner, you have to be corner as a primary because I don't believe you can do it just like, hey, let's just throw him in there and see what happens on third down.
Right.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's why I wasn't sold on this New England Patriots taking Hunter, but how you just described it was a nice way to go about it. So, all right, let's go for the number 4 overall player, rookie wise. It's the number 6 pick. Vegas takes Jeanty overall. So we have Ashton Jeanty, first running back off the board, top 10 pick, going to Las Vegas. How do we feel about it? I mean, I don't think we're upset about it. It's Chip Kelly's offense, right? We got to be pretty excited about that. They brought over Geno, so we can at least function, right? At a baseline.
So all right. So we talked on the phone earlier, and we were like, man, I don't think that that's the optimal landing spot. But then you get into the numbers of what Chip Kelly was as a play caller in the NFL, and what it looks like is they were first in rushing. They were 9th in rushing. They were 14th in rushing, and they were 4th in rushing. And those first 3 years were with the Eagles, and then that last year was with the 49ers. Mm-hmm. So they were 4th in rushing yards, or 4th in rushing yards of the 49ers. And we have Pete Carroll. His MO is just to establish it.
Right.
We're gonna establish it. Yeah. That's what we're gonna do. So you get a quarterback who you can manage and massage the mistakes, no Diddy, and just make sure that he's not actively losing the game for you. And we know that he's going to use his primary running back, LaShawn McCoy, 1,600-yard season with Chip Kelly in year 1. in year 3, DeMarco Murray leads them in carries, has 55 targets and 44 receptions. So that's a role that is fantasy gold, in my opinion. Well, in terms of scheme fit and like how they use their guy, all that stuff. So I kind of had a change of heart after we talked when I got into the numbers, and I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like it's people aren't going to be in on it because it's the Raiders and you think that they suck real bad, but then like you listen to us and like, hey, well that makes a little bit of sense now. Like, and it's a first round running back, top 6 picks, so you know he's about to get run into the ground in that first contract.
Right. No, I think it's it's a pretty good situation. It's just not like it's not necessarily fireworks as an offense, but hey, he's not going to make it out of the top 10, 15 anyway. Whereas you might have some variance in teams. Dallas was a hot spot and pick, but I mean, Vegas could be easily just as good. I don't know the ins and outs of Vegas's offensive line and where they sit currently. But I do like Chip. I like Pete coming in. We got to change this culture. He brought Gino along with him, who can kind of help install how they like to go about things. And then you bring Jeanty in here to be kind of the centerpiece of your offense. And I know you're sitting over there saying, well, Brock Bowers. Of course, Brock Bowers is going to be, but just like you said, Pete likes to play defense and establish the run. And this is and I think Chip's down with that too. And I think you gotta forget what you saw the first time you saw Chip in the NFL, and that, where they were just, running the dog shit out of plays, right? I think we're going to see a faster pace, but not a warp speed or whatever they were calling it when he was over there. So you got to recalibrate what you thought about Chip. And I thought Chip did a good job this year with Ohio State coming in. They lost that Michigan game. They were sticking with the run, and he was like, we're going to get these 2 run. And then they opened it up and did different things with those backs. As well as, gave Jeremiah Smith more run and threw it around the yard a little, open Will Howard up a little bit more in the run game here as things went on in the CFB. So I really liked what Chip Kelly does. I think he's an elite mind, and, I like him and Pete being paired up there, and Jeanty seems like would be a hand in glove fit.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like it doesn't sound sexy at first. And then you go back to what Chip Kelly is as a play caller. Look at the way he used Zach Charbonnet at UCLA. Look at the way that he's used Quinshon Judkins and TreVeyon Henderson at Ohio State. Mm-hmm. You can see the cookie crumbs to where automatically Ashton Jeanty, just off usage alone, is a top 5 fantasy back.
Yeah. Yeah. And how can you not bring up Jeanty without Sincere McCormick? They're going to be one of them. I'm just kidding.
Hey, shout out to UTSA. One of my best friends is the associate head coach there. So yeah,
all
shout out to
all
UTSA.
right. I mean, Sincere looked decent at the end of the year. So
he did. I made it short that I got made fun of a whole bunch because I said he could be a league winner.
Oh, well, I mean, he might could have, and depending on the sense of how you want to gauge league winner, if somebody,
hey, if you just need a free flex spot for your playoffs, so he was your guy for 1 week.
For sure. All right. So I don't think, regardless of where Jeanty goes, it's not changing his value, or if you're picking him at 1-1 overall, I don't think, right? Not for me.
Correct. No, not at all. No.
All right. Let's keep it moving. We got Tyler Warren coming in at number 9 to the Saints. That would be the 5th rookie skill position overall. First glance, I go, man, I hate this because I love Tyler Warren. But then, it's Olave and who else? Kamara's there, but for how long? I mean, we're not sure what the quarterback situation is going to be long term. We just saw Carr converted a bunch of salary. They're in hell right now. So I'm hoping Kellen Moore isn't a fall guy, because I believe in Kellen Moore. I've been a Kellen Moore guy for a long time. And what Kellen can do is coach up a quarterback and coach up an offense. They brought in Saquon last year in a completely different situation with the Eagles, but I thought he did a great job of fixing this offense, because it went from Steichen to dog shit and then back to Kellen Moore and fix this thing. And at times Goddard was a big part of that offense. He was banged up through there. But we've also seen Kellen Moore have good success with tight ends in his other stops. And we've also seen Derek Carr have good success with tight ends, right?
Exactly. So on the surface, it looks like, oh God, why would you want him to go to New Orleans? But you have to look at the fact that, like, they were good before their offensive line and everybody on their offense just just attrition set in a record-setting fashion. I mean, I went from the third most points scored through 2 games in NFL history to half their offensive line on IR. Alvin Kamara's out there with a broken hand and broken ribs, putting the team on his back. Chris Olave is just laughing at his own fart bubbles in the concussion protocol. And then Rashid Shaheed broke his leg, or whatever happened to Rashid Shaheed. He was on fire. And then and then he's just out for the season. So I think that this could be a sneaky good landing spot. I mean, you do have Derek Carr who supported Darren Waller in his three best seasons, 117 targets, 145 targets, 93 targets. And this is a similar type of build of guy. He's 6'5", he's 250 pounds. He's very athletic. He's not Darren Waller athletic. Darren Waller was a fucking receiver.
Wide receiver, yeah.
Yeah, a 4'4" wide receiver at 240 pounds. So he's not that athletic, but you can very clearly see if you just want to get familiar with Tyler Warren, just go type in Tyler Warren highlights on YouTube and you can see why we're really excited for a landing spot like this, because you have Kellen Moore who targeted Dalton Schultz to a tight end 3 finish, previously was 778 for 808 and 8 touchdowns and 105 targets. So there's a path here where it works out. Am I completely optimistic that that's how it works out, that we get instant fantasy goodness? No, but I just wanted to just throw that out there that it could be. We do have a historical basis to be a little bit excited.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. So doesn't move the needle for me either way with Tyler Warren. I think this is just a blue chip stud for me. So I don't really care where he goes per se. I now that we've talked about it, I do like it a little bit more. So again, I'm fine with drafting him pretty much anywhere. If it's tight end premium after the 101 and wherever you want to take Tyler Warren, take your shot, because I think he's that good.
Yes.
But dream.
Are you not familiar with Are you not familiar with his late breakout age? And the last time that we did this,
I said the other day on Twitter, man, like, I don't care if he's on the brink of collecting Social Security and just broke out. Give me this man. Like,
bro, like how can you watch him actually play football and be like, anyway, we can move on. I'm not doing it again.
Yeah. All right. Dream landing spot for me. And I think I'm going to try to keep it realistic. Obviously Denver has been a big topic of conversation. I don't really like the Jets fit that they've been kind of talking about. I mean, obviously San Fran would be dream landing spot for Tyler Warren, right? And then, maybe you deal with a year or two of overlap with Kittle.
That's you as a 49ers fan. Just look.
I don't want them to do that. They need to go trenches. If I'm going Niners, fanboy cap, you got to go trenches for me.
Yeah.
But we just know what the tight end can be. He can be like a Kittle type of clone. I went with Kittle McBride kind of wrapped up in one. I think he can kind of be both of those type of players. Got the nasty to him and just a great receiver.
Yeah. I mean, but mine would be before Cincinnati did what they did yesterday or this morning or whatever it was, would be Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Just him being able to operate in the middle of the field and just operate against safeties and linebackers with Jamar Chase commanding coverage everywhere, and 1 year of T. Higgins at bare minimum. I think that would be the ideal landing spot for me.
Yeah. I mean, at Chargers, if they moved up to get him, I think, pair him with Ladd, Herbert, and then Roman and Harbs. I mean,
we've seen what the tight end production looks like. Yeah. That's an excellent call. Excellent call.
And Loveland's an option potentially at 22 with them. I don't know if he's going to make it there. So anyway, all right, let's go next player. We got Tetairoa McMillan going to the Dallas Cowboys at 12. A little bit of fall from grace here. There's been a little bit of slippage for Tet, warranted or not. I mean, I think if Dallas got themselves Tetairoa McMillan here, they're pretty stoked. I maybe think that Dallas should go back in the trenches here. They seem to have lost a lot of that luster on that O-line, and maybe Cowboys fans could tell me different, but Zach Martin just left. Tyron Smith, who was a stalwart over there forever, is out, and Biotish was over there for a little while, and he went in division rival. They usually do a good job of plugging and playing and fitting that line, but that's been a calling card for them for a while, and I don't know that it's quite there for me, but I digress.
No, I 100% agree. I mean, so they've got some young studs. They've got Tyler Smith and Cooper Beebe, but that's 2 out of 5 spots. The rest of the spots are just question marks. Like Steele's a question mark. However, just sticking to the fantasy perspective, I think that this could be a high-end outcome. I mean, you have a history of them having 2 receivers be heavily targeted. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb is the full Omega tier, Omega level threat, full stop. He's going to command 160 to 170 targets most likely. We saw this offense operate, finish under Brian Schottenheimer as the 3rd overall offense in 2023 when everything was clicking. And that was with not Terrence. What's Ferguson? Jake Ferguson. Goodness gracious. Yeah, Jake from State Farm commanding 102 targets and Brandon Cooks commanding 81 targets. So if we're going to go there, we just consolidate those targets to where now Tet McMillan is commanding those targets. And no matter how you feel about Tet McMillan, he is a better option for better outcomes in your offense than either Jake Ferguson or Brandon Cooks. Full stop. So this would be a great landing spot from a fantasy perspective. If Dak Prescott is healthy and they can keep him upright, there is a path to success for this immediately. And that would probably bump him up in rookie drafts quite a bit. Don't you think?
Probably. The star on your helmet typically does. And this feels like the trajectory that Golden's on, that Golden would be much more of a Cowboys pick here. Just because the splashing in Texas and yada, yada, yada. But Tech being out there and just operating alongside of CeeDee Lamb, doing completely different things than CeeDee Lamb does for that offense, would be, a pretty solid fit. And, I have him somewhere in between 2 and 5 right now, Tet, that is. This doesn't change anything for me.
Right.
I like it. I'm mostly locked in at Tet at the 102 in Superflex tight end premium.
I'm not mad at that.
But I could be persuaded to take, Kaleb or Omarion, in that area, depending on how things go.
I mean, in quite a few of our mocks, is Omarion not almost always the 102 now?
In the last few, he has been for sure. And Tet's uncertainty has kind of spilled over into that a little bit. I
mean, those Daniel Jeremiah mock drafts are moving ADP around like crazy in our actual dynasty mock draft. So that's pretty wild. I think that if he falls, that's better from a fantasy perspective. Like I don't need him unless he's going to Carolina. I don't need him in that top 10 because there's not a lot of fantasy goodness to be had there.
I think New England would bolster his stock because I think people love May and they don't really have a number 1. So
I said a lot, not none. I said there's not a lot. I said, it's possible. I would love, New England, yes. But outside of that, you don't want him to go to the Bears. You don't want him to go to the Jets. You don't want him to go. I mean, Jacksonville? Question mark?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that they're probably going to be more inclined to go trenches and try to solidify some of the shortcomings that they have on their offensive and defensive line. So
yeah, I agree.
This is a really good landing spot, but it's not the dream landing spot. But yeah.
But again, not really affecting the value for me. But just the fact that we're halfway through here, we got, we're going to eventually end up with 10 skill position players in the first round is excellent for your fantasy drafts, right?
100%.
People love the draft capital and a lot of these landing spots and outcomes of who needs what, aren't terrible fits for these guys. I haven't gotten to one where I'm like, I hate this, except for maybe this next one. So we're going.
The one I hate this so much.
We're going to Colston Loveland here at 14 to the Colts, tight end out of Michigan. Now, this could be an embarrassment of riches here for Indy. They've been dying to get a tight end in there for the last 2 coaching regimes. They've been trying to make it work with a bunch of different guys and a bunch of, it just didn't really work out. But this all depends on if they can get AR right. And, this is not my favorite landing spot for Loveland.
No, full stop. I don't want to spend a bunch of time on this because they have 7 tight ends on their roster already. Kylan Granson, Mo Alley Cox, Jelani Woods. What are we doing here?
Right.
And you love Anthony Richardson more than I do. And I still don't understand what the plan is as far as grooming him as a passer. So we have a super limited production ceiling from a tight end. So it would almost make him fantasy irrelevant just on the surface. We would have to see Anthony. I said this on the episode a while back with the QB prediction. We had to see Anthony Richardson take a step forward as a passer for me to be like, those Colts options, I'm really, really excited about.
Yeah. Yeah, you got Pittman and you have Downs, who are both good players, and then you have AD Mitchell, who shown that he can separate at an NFL level. He just has to be consistent. And then Pierce can get down and stretch the field. So like they've got weapons all over the place. Focus on something else right now. And AR would have to prove he can hold up 3 fantasy relevant players. And now maybe Loveland would come in there and just shoot right to the top and dominate the middle of the field, or however you would see it. And maybe we could be dead wrong here and he'd be their number one target. But, there's such a range of outcomes there that, certainly not my favorite of this draft. And that would probably maybe, I might take somebody like a Tre Harris if I'm at the 111, 112, 2-1. Maybe I take Tre Harris if he gets a landing spot I like over Colston Loveland here.
100%. That would move. He would almost be undraftable to me if he goes to the Colts.
Like I won't go that far.
Just being honest.
It can change so fast. Next year they could in 2027. They could have Arch Manning back there. Who knows?
Now, like a year from now, you could go back and screenshot this shit and then be like, this guy, Chef said that Colston Loveland would be undraftable. And be like, yeah, I fucking did. Yeah. Did you watch the Colts play football? And also, again, Anthony Richardson could take a step forward. We could be, I could be eating a bunch of crow on this. So it's fine. But I don't love this on the surface based on what I've seen from the Colts and what that landing spot represents.
Yeah, I tend to agree. All right, let's keep it moving. Let's go to pick number 21, Pittsburgh Steelers, 8th skill position player off the board. They're going to take Matthew Golden here in black and gold. What's your initial takeoff of that there? It's needed. They need somebody.
Got to have somebody. You got to have somebody. And I would love this. There's just too much uncertainty at the quarterback position for me. I mean, we've seen the ceiling outcome for an Arthur Smith offense was 2020 with Derrick Henry running for 2,000 yards. A.J. Brown goes for 1,000 yards on 100 targets. Corey Davis has 92 targets, finishes with 980 yards and 4 to 6 touchdowns. I can't remember. But that was also a historically efficient offense. Tannehill threw for 3,800 yards on 481 attempts and 33 touchdowns. So if we can get a ceiling outcome like that, then yes, this is fantastic. I don't love this spot right now because there are way too many question marks for us to just say, stamp it, boom, pencil it in. Matthew Golden gonna be one of the most fantasy relevant receivers of this class with this landing spot. Now, I think he's really good. Now you got the Twitter warriors and the nerds with the spreadsheets. They pulled him out and they said, but his yards per route run is only career 1.8, and that's not very good. And so if you just can't really play, you can't bank on counting on him as a player if his yards per route run's not good. And cut the film on. Tell me you don't get bricked up in the cement aisle when you watch Matthew Golden play football. It's about opportunity and growth as a player. So nothing about this gives me confidence that he's going to be dominant from a fantasy perspective, but the talent is there. And if we solve the quarterback equation for Pittsburgh that they've been trying to figure out for the last 7 years or however long it's been since Ben Roethlisberger retired, then this is a totally different conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's definitely, I think him going there and, the Pittsburgh moniker of wide receivers, like they haven't really done that great of a job of drafting wide receivers really over the last, couple iterations. It's been a minute before, Pickens is good, but it's Pickens versus Pickens.
Oh man, that dude has a monkey with cymbals just banging. And then there's a guy with a megaphone just saying, do it, whatever intrusive thought it is. It's just like, do it.
Yeah. You need to cut it out just a little bit. But is it going to be Fields? I don't think it's going to be Russ. And if it is Fields, I don't mind Fields. I certainly don't trust him to get it around to these two guys. and really help bring along a rookie into where you need him to be, right? And then Pickens is probably going to have a problem because it's not everything isn't going.
I mean, we're already talking about Pickens holding in to get a new contract. So, like,
yeah,
we've already started the 2025 Pickens media cycle. And this is me. You will not find a bigger Pickens stan than me on the internet. And I cannot, in good conscience, give people fantasy advice to be like, yes, be very bullish on George Pickens anymore.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how they play the QB market. But I do think this pick, and if it's still kind of undecided going into the draft, as if, whether it's, Sam Darnold or Aaron Rodgers or Daniel Jones, or if they don't, I'm not saying I have a lean one way or the other, would like one way. I'm just saying if they do nothing with the free agent market and don't do anything and it's open going in, maybe it's Fields they bring back or whatever. And if it's Fields going into the draft and Golden goes here, I think this would keep This would be something that would keep Golden near the back of the first round in Superflex tight end premium.
Unquestionably. Yes. This is not the ideal landing spot by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, at least currently. And again, this is why I try not to get too fired up about landing spots, and it doesn't change my opinion a ton on guys. The talent's the talent, and things change so fast in this iteration of the NFL. Like, we could be going from a terrible situation to a great situation real quick. But right now, for me, it's all about evaluating the value of what the public's going to do, because that's how you play this game. It's all based off of what the public's value is going to give you and how you view that, whether you want to take it or leave it, or, hey, is there going to be a better opportunity later? Or, do I need to hop on this now? I'd still be drafting Golden in the back of that and just, but I know that I'm not going to be expecting, he's not going to change my fantasy franchise year one, most likely, right? He's going to be an exciting bench player.
So that's an excellent point to make. Is what we're talking about here is what I'm saying is, like, what's the fantasy impact potentially going to look like? And here's what the historical basis is. And Casey's giving you, hey, this is exactly what, like, this is where his range is, and I would be comfortable selecting a talent like that there. So if you are high on Matthew Golden, this is not we're out on Matthew Golden. We're just saying that his ADP won't be affected by what his landing spot is.
Right. And I think he's probably going to end up going higher than 21 to Pittsburgh. Just for the trajectory they were on. All right, 22, Los Angeles Chargers come in and they get their back right here. So 2 running backs in the first round. Suck it, nerds. We got Omarion Hampton, B2K, going over there to LA. And, if this is the landing spot that you get, I mean, tight ends and running backs to LA, you got to be excited. And this guy does seem, I know you used the analogy already, but hand in glove to the style of football that Jim Harbaugh wants to play and the brand that he wants to come out and make this Chargers team into.
Listen, I got an icebox where my J.K. Dobbins used to be, and I am really excited about what this represents. So let's just talk about what that role looks like in a Greg Roman offense, then what the ceiling is from a rushing perspective for a Greg Roman offense. So 2024 in Los Angeles, they run the ball 463 times for 1,881 yards and 17 rushing touchdowns. Now, if we go back to Baltimore, which you kind of have to, you have to excuse that because Lamar is one of the most dynamic running quarterback that we've ever seen, but that's 2,800 yards a season, right? And then you go back to his days in San Francisco, and that's 2,200 yards a season and about 14 touchdowns. And the thing that about Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh is they like a guy. Like, they just fed J.K. Dobbins like there was no tomorrow. Yeah. And this is an unequivocal upgrade to J.K. Dobbins. No shade to our guy. Now, I don't know if you're as big of a J.K. Dobbins guy as I am, but no shade to J.K. Dobbins, but Omarion Hampton is superior in every single way. And you have that excellent offensive line, plus the run schemes of Greg Roman. This is just, I would be in the cement aisle. They'd have to call security to get me out of it.
Yeah, I mean, this would, I'm a big Kaleb Johnson guy, but this would certainly put Omarion Hampton in the runnings for the 102 spot that I, talked about with Tet and that range out comes in. And I think most people would be there. I think this would shore up the 102 being the most consensus possible as Omarion Hampton.
Yeah,
I think
it's crystallized 101, 102 would be boom, those two guys. And if you wanted to get cute, you probably would have some people saying, hey, I would take Omarion's my RB1 in the class.
Yeah, well, of course, you got to get these clicks in. So, this is everybody's
right, exactly.
There. So, all right, Chargers take Hampton at 22. At 26, Emeka Egbuka to the Los Angeles Rams. Gotta say, I think this is one of the more unrealistic picks here. And I mean, clip this in a little bit if I'm wrong, but this is just not a Rams pick. They don't pick receivers this high. Quite frankly, if they had to, they're going to roll in there with Jordan Whittington, Tutu Atwell. They love who's the dude who was on the Chiefs for a while. And,
he's a free agent though. So I mean,
I don't know if they'll bring him back on the cheap or whatever. But he's Demarcus Robinson.
Robinson, yeah,
he's had some good run for them here or there, and then they brought Tutu back, but Egbuka, of course, would be a nice fit there, and I understand what Jordan Reed is saying here, but I mean, they're way more likely to take Restrepo in the 4th round than
right. They just don't do this. The earliest that they've taken a receiver in the last 7 years is Tutu Atwell at 57, and they just gave him $10 million. So I can't see this happening. But let's talk about if it does actually happen. That does Egbuka now become the wide receiver 1 in the class for you? Would he be the first guy that you would take off the board as a receiver? First receiver you would take off the board? Tet is in Dallas. So Tet's in Dallas, right? We know that.
It might be. And honestly, it really might be. I didn't think that there was much that I thought Egbuka was firmly planted as my 3 with Tet, Burden, Egbuka. If the Rams invested this kind of capital and we know what the Rams offense is and what they can do with a player like this, it might be overreaction, but it might that would just have to be. I can't make a good argument to say no.
Right. I mean, he steps into the vacated targets of Cooper Kupp. He's that he's a guy who's doing the dirty work in an offense. He's been a target earner in one of the most talented wide receiver rooms in the history of college football, and he is the professional's professional. You've heard us say it time and time again. This is maybe the most pro-ready guy in the entire class in terms of versatility of skill set combined with what he put on film and his physicality. He's a power slot day one. A lot of people comped him to Chris Godwin, but he might be more athletic. I mean, Chris Godwin was a 4.42 guy. People forget that. But this is a hand in glove fit. And like I said, he would be the first receiver I would take off the board if this was the landing spot.
Yeah, no, I can't fight with you, but I'm doubting that this is going to happen. But I think it's if so, we're playing dream scenarios. This is a pretty good dream scenario for what Egbuka can bring to an offense and what LA does with the receiver position and how they like to play him. So, all right, that's the end of round 1. So we had 10 skill positions in round 1, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And then a cornerback receiver. So that's pretty solid, man. Let's move into round 2. Before we do, we got this rookie landing spots NFL mock is brought to you by Fast Draft, the fastest, easiest fantasy app on the planet. Use promo code FFD, double your deposit up to $25 with that promo code. It really doesn't get any easier than Fast Draft. You get on there, you download the app, you're in and out in a draft in under 10 minutes. And they got the only rookies only best ball scenario. They just added defense in there, and you can play some more traditional best ball as well. But everything is 60 players. You're in and out. While you're taking your little trip to the commode there, you could draft yourself a little team while you're sitting there instead of doom scrolling. So make sure you go check that app out. Use promo code FFD. Tell them that we sent you. All right. Let's hop into round 2. Right off the rip, pick 33, Cleveland Browns, TreVeyon Henderson. Chubb's had some injuries. The brand of football that they play, the running back is a big part of it. We've seen Ford have success in this offense. We've seen Chubb be awesome and is, typically known across the board as the best pure rusher in the league because doesn't necessarily catch a ton of passes. Not that I don't think he can. They just don't throw it to him. Now he split some work here and there. with Hunt and kind of how they deploy their backs. I feel like maybe I would prefer like a Kaleb Johnson in here, but TreVeyon Henderson is certainly interesting. A bit different than how than Nick Chubb gets it done, right? So what's your thoughts on this? Yeah,
the style is totally different. You know, I think that the way that this one works in particular is you have Jerome Ford, who's going to act as kind of a change of pace back. TreVeyon's going to get the high value touches. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. We saw that role for Kareem Hunt in 2020 through 2023, where he had, I mean, the high water mark of 38 receptions. He had a 35 reception season. So I think that that's kind of where you'll have TreVeyon being able to be dynamic as a pass catcher and then also being extremely efficient on the ground. I mean, we're looking at Nick Chubb's a career 5 yards a carry guy. It might have been weighed down by that this past year where he clearly was not himself. But I mean, this is an offense that basically averaged about 4.8 yards a carry, and that's TreVeyon's calling card is efficiency. He doesn't really make mistakes as a runner. He can get you what's there, and he can get you a 75-yard touchdown. So this is exciting from a fantasy perspective, and this would probably crystallize him in many people's eyes as probably the RB in this mock draft. Omarion's the RB2 now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this would probably move TreVeyon to RB3, right? Unquestionably.
Yeah. I think all these running backs are going to get day one or second round capital. So everyone's going to be happy about the top 5 guys. So I don't think it's going to be a whole lot of jockeying around. LA could certainly move him around, but I think this would be good for TreVeyon. It wouldn't really move TreVeyon all that much for me. I have TreVeyon currently as RB3-4, but all those 2, 3, 4, 5 are kind of all in the same tier to me. I'm not, it's just stylistically, who do I like more? And I like Kaleb and TreVeyon a little more than Omarion and Judkins. They just play differently,
Right.
Those guys are more like hammers that get it done north south, and the other guys, not that neither TreVeyon or Kaleb don't get it, but just a lot more bend and movement to their game rather than kind of what those two hammers kind of provide. Regardless,
right,
I would like to see TreVeyon Henderson in a Bears uniform, kind of in that
yes. Let's vacate all the DeAndre Swift touches and give them to TreVeyon and just see what that looks like from a fantasy perspective. Hint, hint, it's top 5 to 7.
Right. So I'd like to see TreVeyon in a Bears uniform, and or if the Raiders didn't draft Jeanty in the first round,
yes,
pair him back up with Chip and putting him in Vegas in the second round.
That's going to get a lot more steam than I feel like it's getting right now.
What's that?
That's going to get a lot more steam than I feel like it's getting right now. One of the Ohio State running backs going to Vegas to be paired with Chip Kelly.
Yeah, no, I like it. He doesn't. Henderson doesn't seem like a Pete Carroll type of player, but certainly Chip. Chip can cape, as the kids say, for one of those two.
I mean, well, you have him having extreme success with a guy with the exact same build as TreVeyon Henderson and LaShawn McCoy, 5'10", 208, 5'10", 202. That slippery style of back can have success in those Chip Kelly run schemes, and he's familiar with a lot of the blocking schemes that I'm sure are going to translate to the NFL level. But yeah.
All right, let's keep it moving. We'll go a little faster here through the back end because again, we have 10 more skill position players that go off the board in the second round with a total of 20 skill. Talk about the value of your rookie draft just continuing to get better and better. And if you can buy those picks at a discount, go ahead and do it anywhere from 101 to the mid-second. There's some great picks out here, and this would really solidify a lot of it. Maybe even move up to tight ends. We'll get to that in a second. But the next guy off the board at pick 34 to the Tennessee Titans, Luther Burden the third. This is my guy, but this doesn't make me super happy. Although I don't know what we're going to do at quarterback. What you're going to do at quarterback. Although we led this episode with talking about somebody like Malik Neighbors and BTJ when everything is down around you, how positive it can be for fantasy success, even if your team's dog shit and everything just gets funneled to you. Now, Calvin Ridley's still over there, so they would have 2 options, but Probably with how this draft went, Burden is for sure wide receiver 3 for me. The way this draft would have broken down.
Brother, I have grown. From our first conversation and me doing a deep dive on Luther Burden and what happened in 2024. I love Luther Burden. I think he's going to be a dynamic talent. I think that in this offense, the way that he would be used would be similar to how they used Calvin Ridley last year. Calvin Ridley's not really a yak guy. Luther Burden's the yak god, and you could see how you could use him on the move like the Bengals used Jamar Chase with Brian Callahan. Now, guys, don't clip this and be assholes about it. I am not saying that Luther Burden is Jamar Chase. I am saying that you could use them very similarly in that you get them the ball in space and very quickly close to the line of scrimmage, and he makes things happen. So
yeah.
That's the ceiling outcome right now with no quality or clarity as far as the quarterback picture goes for me.
Yeah. So this would be a little bit of a bump down for Burden. Good landing spot that you'd be super excited about. Again, I'm going to go back to the Niners, kind of losing Debo. He's not Debo Samuels, but again, he can operate and do similar things for that offense that they just lost. And I think more. I think, obviously nobody's Debo Samuels, right? But
right.
Luther would be a really good fit for kind of what they do there. And, I don't know that he would last. Luther would last as long as it would take to get back to the 49ers there, but that would be, again, I think a really good landing spot for Luther Burden.
It's a smash. And I mean, you immediately come in and start thinking about, okay, well, they know exactly what to do with a player like this. But yeah, for the where he is in this mock draft, it makes me really sad because I don't know if we have a quarterback that would be able to get him the ball or just turn into a meme again. That's not why we're here. Stay focused, JC. All right, well, let's go to the next guy before I get real sad again.
I'm going to go to one more on Burden. Denver with Bo Nix, I feel like would be a nice landing spot for Luther Burden as well. Put him in
slam dunk.
I like that. So next pick off the board is Jaxson Dart to the Raiders. That could still be a possibility. We don't know. Geno obviously going over to Vegas. A lot of people saying Jaxson Dart might not make it this far. A lot of people maybe saying Vegas taking Jaxson Dart at 6, with Geno, or maybe the Seahawks are going to take Jaxson Dart in the first round. I don't know, but so we can kind of skip over this one for now because we have an answer right there. Quick thoughts on Dart at all?
I mean, this would be a definite play for the future. That would be great for Jaxson Dart, in my opinion. I mean, he's one of the best deep ball throwers in the class. He led the NCAA last year in deep ball completed yards on passes over 20 yards. And we know that Pete Carroll's offense previously and Chip Kelly's offense previously, I mean, that was with Deshaun Jackson and Jeremy Maclin, and we don't have that answer. Trey Tucker's not that for that offense. So you can have a guy that can get the ball deep if you can Geno can throw the ball deep. Jaxson Dart would be able to throw the ball deep. And he has a bit of mobility. So more in a, Mark Sanchez kind of way than a Michael Vick or whoever was operating the offense at a high level previously kind of way. So it's good, I guess, but it does nothing for fantasy with Geno there in year 1.
Right. All right. Let's keep it moving. We got Dallas coming in at pick 44, taking Quinshon Judkins. That's the 14th skill position player off the board. Another running back. We haven't had a bad landing spot for a running back yet. This is a pretty solid one. I think it's a good fit. I like Judkins with the star on the helmet.
You know how I feel about Quinshon Judkins.
Yeah.
You know how I feel about him. I mean, like, I watch him run the ball and I just want to do testosterone laced things like I can build shit with my hands or like go hunt animals, use power tools. Like, I just watch him run the ball and I'm like, all right, I got to go do something. Like, I got to go do some man shit right now. And I think that would this pairing, in terms of what Brian Schottenheimer does in the run game with Clayton Adams, and then what they've shown you that they want to do when they get a young back end on a first contract is just pound the rock. So
Right.
yeah, I love this, and I love the fit based on how Clayton Adams has been productive with that run game in Arizona the last couple of years. He ports that over to Dallas. They have some questions on the offensive line, but he's one of the most brilliant offensive minds as an offensive line coach, and that's going to be his primary focus. So I think that this would be a great fit.
Yeah, Judkins gives you that hard-nosed style like Connor gives you, right? From coming from the
That's
Zona guy.
exactly.
But the other big thing here is, and I'm not going to say Dallas doesn't have an identity, but Quinshon Judkins just raises it to a 10 on the field, and I feel like brings some fucking balls to that offense.
I'm not the only person on earth that feels this way when he runs the football, bro.
Right.
I'm telling you, that's what, like, he's going to put juice onto the sideline. Yeah. No diddy. But he brings juice whenever he touches a football because he's trying to punish whoever is trying to tackle him. It's really, that's an important part of a football team.
Yeah, no, I think that would be huge for Dallas to get some of that in their identity offensively. Like I talk about all the time with Sam Fran. Debo forever was the engine when things were going because he just further physicalized the entire Niners team, right? You know, it was just like, this is going to be a long day. You're going to be sore. Like the stat forever was people are 0 after playing the Niners the week before, right? You know, you don't win games coming off of that game. Even if you won it there or lost there. So I think that would be a great fit for Dallas schematically, and give them some vigor back on that offense, if you will.
Absolutely.
All right. At 15 overall from the skill positions, we have, and pick 51, Denver Broncos taking Arroyo. What's your take on that? I mean, Denver's a hotbed for, hey, we need somebody to get a tight end. We got the old Jimmy Graham. So Elijah Arroyo over there, uber athletic, not a ton of production through the career necessarily, but that Senior Bowl raised some eyebrows. Didn't get to see him at the combine. Going to see him at the pro day with Cam. I think this is fine. I think this would raise the stock of Arroyo as for the fantasy community.
He would be the tight end 2 He would be the tight end 2 selected in rookie drafts immediately.
You think he would jump above Loveland?
Yes, without question. Without question for me. Now, the issue here isn't talent, it's staying healthy. So you had a guy who played 8 games in 2022 and 2023 due to injuries. Now he's injured again after 1 year of being healthy. So you're going to be a little bit trepidatious, and that might be called the cause for pause as far as him, in the NFL. But as far as talent goes, he's a 4-star recruit. He's a 4th tight end coming out of his class. He has 590 yards and 7 touchdowns when he's finally in a full-time role. And this was the first year that he ever got to have that full-time role after being a true freshman and then dealing with a bunch of injuries. So day 2 draft capital, Sean Payton's joker, on top of the fact that he's extremely athletic and he was bigger than he was listed. I think that he would crystallize himself as the tight end 2 in the rookie class, excuse me.
Yeah, no, that's certainly interesting. I think some people right now have Colston as the tight end 1. So there's definitely going to be a battle there. And if in this case, he would have gotten the higher draft capital, but I do think there'd be a lot of people who would be, right there with you of how sexy and how much fun this could be with Arroyo there. So that would be nice for his draft capital. Keeping it moving, the Bucks at 53 take Tre Harris. So, this is a nod to the future, it would seem, right? Mike Evans is going to be back. Jayden McMillan looks good. Getting rid of Godwin, most likely. I love Tre Harris. I think Tre Harris brings some dog to any team that he's going to.
We're the same. Yeah, we're the same on Tre Harris. Like, I think that, we not to be long-winded, but this is almost a 1-for-1 Chris Godwin replacement. I think that he has the skill set, the versatility. You moved Chris Godwin back into the slot, and he was the wide receiver 5 in points per game through those first 7 weeks, I believe. Mm-hmm. So you might not get that type of solidified production in year 1, but it's well within his skill set and his ceiling. If you are going to target Tre Harris, good things happen. I mean, 5 yards per route run, over 5 yards per route run versus man, and a career 2.86 yards per route run. Shout out to you nerds. So if you love the analytics, Tre Harris is your guy. If you love guys who just go out there and just put it on film, Tre Harris is your guy. So I love this pick here.
Yeah, we don't know how much longer Mike Evans is going to be, about to fall off, but it seems like it's been 3 years since Mike Evans was about to fall off. He keeps crushing. Baker's got some confidence and some swagger back. We don't know what this offense is going to look like without Cohen, but I think this is nice. For me, this is, hey, we can get Tre, put him at the X or whatever. We got
versatility. Yes.
We got right. And that McMillan's the best in the slot. I think he should be in the slot. You can bump him outside, but from his days in Washington, I always thought he was this killer in the slot. And then when Mike Evans does leave, you then at least, you're coming off of maybe having two killers that can play out wide to, hey, now we can just slide him back over and he's our primary kind of one possession receiver that is just, again, brings you some attitude, some swagger. Like, he's not going to light up the testing per se necessarily. And we saw that, everything was just fine. But he's a huge, just flip on the tape, man. Like, this is one of those guys. This is that just throws dudes off his back, thwarting guys left and right, a ridiculous player in the contested catch realm. And it's not a red flag contested catch realm either, right?
No.
It's my God, that's a ridiculous. And he just seems to find ways to get open and be open. He knows where to be, knows how to sit. And then once it's in his hand, he's a grown man on the field. So Tre Harris is one of my favorite receivers in this draft. And Tampa getting him here at 53, he's going to be a hell of a, right now, he continuously like 2-4, 2-1. I'll select him every time at the 2-1. And like I said, with some of these landing spots, like Loveland, tight end premium, Harris would probably jump him for me.
Unquestionably.
In this scenario, in this particular draft.
Yeah, I'm doing that anyway, but I'm doing that anyway just because that's how strongly I feel about Tre Harris. But I think that this was, this is almost an ideal landing spot. The only thing that you would have questions about would be the target share, the day one target share.
Right. So we talked about that a little bit with Golden, how that might knock you down, but I think Baker can throw it around the yard enough where year one, you're still going to get some production from Harris in this situation. And then by year two, is Mike Evans there? I have no idea. So
there's enough room in that passing ceiling, and they promoted their quarterbacks coach, I believe, to offensive coordinator. So you'll have some sort of familiarity and continuity, even if it's not all the same concept. So yeah.
Right. But I'm I like the swagger back, confident Baker. He's been around the league enough. I think from what has left off to a new guy coming in, I think Baker can help take the reins, and they can build an offense of what he's familiar with and what the other guy likes to run and what he got from Cohen. I'm not terribly concerned about the Bucs offense going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, we've got to be coordinator agnostic when it comes to Baker. He's had 8 different offensive coordinators in the last 8 seasons, and he's now figured out the NFL to a degree, to the most. So how do I say this? He's figured out how to maximize his abilities in multiple systems, and we have to trust that.
Yeah. No, that's a good call. All right. Let's keep it moving. We got Mason Taylor coming in with the Chargers, 55 overall. So Mason Taylor getting way more love in the NFL streets than the fantasy streets. I think people like him, but he's habitually, third-ish round pick, even in tight end premium a lot of the times, maybe late second. I gotta say, I'm not terribly well versed in Mason Taylor's film. I think good genes, good Levi's, as we say, and the NFL likes him. And hey, if he's more of a typical tight end as far as the way the tight end position goes, would you say, or not really?
Well, here's the thing. This was a lot cooler. 2 years ago, and he just kind of never took that step forward. For whatever reason, I believe he had 38 receptions as a freshman, and then we were kind of all looking for him to make that next step forward, and it never looked that way, and it never. You don't get that feeling now. I mean. Now he went viral at doing the gauntlet at the combine. That was super cool, but we just don't know about the athletic profile. Now at the Senior Bowl, he did show you that he has some wiggle to him. He has some red zone prowess. I mean, that's a skill no matter how you want to look at it. Guys who can get open in the end zone or come down with the football in the end zone, that's something that is going to be of value. And you have one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL that's desperate for a big weapon that they can count on. Cough, cough, wink, wink, Quinshon Judkins. So you need that. That's a need that's being filled. I just don't know what the athletic profile is as far as his ceiling that he offers. Is he a catch and fall down? Is he Dalton Schultz? Is he biracial Dalton Schultz? What is it?
Yeah.
Like I can't place it. And that was me. That's after me watching. I'd be totally honest. I watched 2 of his games from this year. And I was just kind of like, it's cool, but I did not want to watch more.
Yeah.
So leave in the comments what we should watch to get super excited about Mason Taylor, please.
Yeah, no, good call. And I'm especially tight end premium. If tight ends are going to fall, I'll collect them all in the 3rd, 4th round. I'll keep drafting tight ends in that area. Obviously, this draft has some fun 3rd round picks, but historically, I'll grab some tight ends in that range just because I think there's chances for them. The guys, Bretton Strangers of the world, the Luke Schoonmakers of the world. We might see a Strange about to get a chance this year. I don't know. Are they going to draft Tyler Warren with the 5th overall pick or whatever they have? They got rid of Evan Ingram. Who knows? But we'll see with Mason Taylor. This could really jolt him up here and have people taking a second look. And once you get into that end of the late 2nd, early 3rd, the more casual players are going to draft off name cachet, and he's going to have some. So he might just on that alone. And being, a target share in LA being open. So Mason Taylor certainly interesting. Let's go 58. The Houston Texans take Jayden Higgins. Now, this was probably before they got Christian Kirk. I don't know that would necessarily change this for anybody. I think that's a good pickup. I think Christian Kirk's a great pickup for the Houston Texans. Jayden Higgins, although they need a healthy wide receiver, which hasn't been Kirk's calling card. Jayden Higgins here though is a lot of fun, right? And already a mid-second for me, and this I'm wouldn't go anywhere. He does seem to be him. He does seem to hang around in a lot of these rookie mocks that we're doing right now. Like I'll be picking like 210 and 212, and he's still on the board. So
I don't get it. I don't understand it, but I'm also noted to be a Jayden Higgins truther, and I have been for a while. So I don't really get it. I think that that's tremendous value. I think that his ceiling. I mean,
especially after what he did at the combine. I thought that it would be. I thought there'd be more of a vibe for Higgins right now, and it seems like it's not quite there.
I guess we're gonna have to get Daniel Jeremiah to put out some propaganda and have him selected in the top 40 for things to start to change. But for this guy, I think that this is a perfect landing spot because now you give CJ Stroud 2 guys who can separate in all 3 dimensions. And, you have Christian Kirk who can operate in that Tank Dell role, in the slot role over the middle of the field, even though that's what Diggs was doing more so last year, which all that was weird. So anyway, I think that this gives him a fantasy floor day one and the opportunity to come in and earn a target share behind Nico that could make him very fantasy relevant and a steal if he's in the back of the 2nd round.
Yeah, totally agree. I think if he does get this capital that's going here, that gets 2nd round, which I think he stamped it already, I think then the masses will turn it around, and I think he'll be more of a 2.4 to 2.7 kind of guy, super flex tight end premium, of course.
100%.
All right, 59, Ravens go Elic Ayomanor. And while I like Ayomanor, I think Ayomanor and Besh are kind of the same. I like Besh a little more personally. I kind of can see this here, but to me, I feel like somebody like a Besh or Jalen Royals really feels like a Raven to me. But hey, this gives them, something different than what they have there, I guess.
So they would have 3 of the same guy then. So you've got Rashad Bateman, who's now breaking out. You've got Devontae Walker, who they took in the 4th round last year. And now you would have Elic Ayomanor, who is basically going to come in and, I don't know, be their deep guy. Would he be their deep guy?
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, you're using Zay Flowers on all these, crossers and short routes and bubble screens and all that stuff. So I don't know what the role is that he plays. I think, like you said, the pick feels more like a Jalen Royals because that's a guy who, while Elic Ayomanor does have the requisite level of dog to be a Baltimore Raven, Jalen Royals is the guy that you manufacture touches for, and it's going to work out really, really well. So I think that the versatility of skill set would lend itself more to a Jalen Royals as well. So I don't love this at all.
No, I mean, I think Ayomanor getting the capital is good. It wouldn't move the needle on where I'd be drafting Ayomanor at this point.
No.
I think, something with a little bit more open receiving core that wasn't, there's not a whole lot of target share to necessarily go around. Zay's going to get his, the tight end's going to get his. Bateman's kind of like you said, the mini little breakout there. So I don't know where they fit in. Maybe Bateman's not long term for them. I also been hurt, so not
I would
my favorite.
say the ideal landing spot to me would be Green Bay.
Yeah.
They need a big physical guy. Dobbs is what he is. Jayden Reed is electrifying in small sample sizes. They need a big physical guy that, can win down the boundary. They wanted that to be Christian Watson, but it's just not. And I mean, he has the skill set, in my opinion. He's produced some of that. So yeah, that would be my pick. But yeah, we can move on. We don't have to spend a ton of time. We both hate this pick. And we would like for different things to happen.
Yeah, and we need to save the best for last anyway. So the last skill position pick coming in at 61 with the Washington Commanders, Kaleb Johnson. Over there hanging out with Cliff and Quinn, and then pair him up with Jayden Daniels. And, I think we saw how elite this rushing offense can be. I think I think Brian Robinson had good runs through this with this offense last year and was like, damn, he looks really good. And how you have to defend this offense. You put somebody like a Kaleb Johnson in that situation, boy, oh boy. I mean, obviously he's a favorite of mine, so that, I'm slightly biased there, but all five guys would have gotten the capital as far as the running back position and, pretty solid landing spots. Like I said, Kaleb Johnson to the Bears a little earlier would be okay with me, or TreVeyon to the Bears would have been okay with me. But this would be pretty sick. All of a sudden you got Debo over there, you got Terry McLaurin over there. And now you're going to throw Kaleb Johnson into the mix here, give you some physicality, but with some speed. I don't know, man. I think that'd be a lot to defend there.
You're reskinning Baltimore at that point because you've seen what the running game looks like in Washington with no viable. Jayden Daniels rushed for 900 yards last year, and I don't think that that was without him just really turning the knob in terms of wanting to be a running quarterback per se. And I think that with the way that you would have to defend the read option with Kaleb Johnson there, those 15-yard runs from Brian Robinson turn into touchdowns, long touchdowns with Kaleb Johnson. And that offensive line, they've solidified that. You mentioned Biotish going there. They've worked really hard to protect Jayden Daniels and build out the run game. So I think that this is a hand in glove fit in terms of what he could come in and do. I think he's a better back than Brian Robinson. I think that he has enough where he could be used as a 3-down back in the passing game. I don't think that happens year one with Austin Eckler still on the roster, but I think Brian Robinson would immediately cede touches to Kaleb Johnson in year one. I mean, week one even, and we would be looking at him getting out. Like, he's at the back of the first round. He would start to climb back up to where he had gotten once people started getting into the film on him early in the process.
Yeah, I think Kaleb Johnson would take over that backfield. Like you said, Eckler still being there and what he is, a veteran presence and such a good pass catcher, and was really good for them after he came back down the stretch there. I thought Eckler played really well. How much juice is left in that tank, we don't know. And I think Kaleb Johnson's head and shoulders better than Brian Robinson. And I like Brian Robinson. It's not a slight on him. Yeah, Brian Robinson, good pass catcher. underrated pass catcher for what he is.
Professional guy, great guy,
right.
Love the guy. Just not better than Kaleb Johnson.
Yeah, Kaleb just brings just a whole nother dimension to that offense. So that would be awesome, and really like it. So that's gonna wrap up today's show. You got anything else for him, Chev?
No, man. This was really fun. I really enjoy the landing spots being somewhat optimal and being able to kind of talk myself into some of this so that I'm not shocked when May comes around or April comes around and some of these guys go in places where that's less than ideal.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. This was a lot of fun. We'll be doing more of this at least once or twice more before the draft hits. Always fun to break down mocks. Maybe one of these times we'll do an actual NFL drop, talk about the trenches a little more, Yeah. Nobody wants to hear about it, but it's such a crucial part.
Nobody wants to hear about it until a team comes out and they have, they draft a guy and all of a sudden they go from the worst rushing team in the league to leading the league in rushing. So pay attention to the trenches.
Absolutely. All right. Where can we find all the rest of Chev's voice, tweets, whatever?
Yeah, all the tweets at old Shedeur Sanders at Chev90 on the Twitter machine. I had to change the name because the slander's getting out of control. So I want to be ahead. I want to be ahead of the curve there. Also at 2 Guys 1 Pod FF on all social media platforms. I co-host the Dynasty Pulse on the Fantasy Sports Advice Network. And if you want to listen to the podcast 2 Guys 1 Pod FF, it is hosted on the Fantasy Sports Advice Network. And I host Player Profiler News Today Fridays at 6 p.m. Central.
Yeah, make sure you go check all that out. Apparently, you can get Chev 5 days a week, however you want them. You can always check us out.
However you want them is crazy.
Just video or audio, written, whatever you got. You can come get extra pods on the Patreon side, $5 holler. You can come get you into the free Discord, 5-star review if you're listening on the pod. Like and subscribe if you're on the tubes. You know what it is at this point. Help your boys out any way you can, and we appreciate you. Until next time, peace.